Okay, so more on sexual health and wellness with Venus, LRQ. Why is sexual wellness a necessity, a necessary path of instruction or practice? Wow, I really messed that one up.
Why is it why is it a necessary path of instruction
Or practice.
or practice?
Yes.
Well, let's see. In my mind, I don't think you can have the practice without the instruction because you would know what you were doing. So the instruction is is a necessity, so you'll know what to practice. Um, the practice is necessary to build your partnership, to build your relationship, to get it to have a solid foundation. I would think that's very important. Sexual health and wellness will keep your relationship, help keep your relationship strong. If you don't have good sexual engagement, sexual connection, that's a problem.
Well, we're asking you this as the woman. Now, as a man, I'm saying, well, I give it to my wife when she wanted. I take care of that thing. She ain't got no complaints.
Mm-hmm.
Yada yada yada. And then it's mine. You have your sexual health and wellness. Is that what we're talking about? Just you getting, receiving sexual engagement?
The sexual engagement is a vehicle to get you to the sexual wellness, but it's not the only thing. You you need at some point to again understand what for a woman what a sexual release is and all that being a black woman in today's society, being a mother, being a teacher, being a sister, being a daughter, being in a society where you're working, um, being married or partnered with or living with or whatever it is with a black man, all of that brings everyday normal stresses, day after day, week after week, month after month. And if you continue carrying that without ever letting some of that go, that's where your breast cancer comes from, that's where your fibroids come from, that's where your whatever this fibromyalgia business with everybody with all this pain from head to toenail. It's all these different diseases comes from all that pent up stuff that you don't let go. Sexually, you can let those things go by having a release, but you're not going to have a release by some random pickup that you meet in a bar and y'all are going at it. It's like okay, thanks, and you go home and he goes home because there's nothing emotional there. There's nothing loving there. Yeah, you might care about the brother for the moment while he's giving it to you good, but then he's gonna roll off and keep it moving, and so are you. So without the other factors, you don't get to the sexual wellness part. You get to the sex, which is easy. You don't get to the wellness part.
Okay, so what gets you to the wellness part? Because you started out saying you got to have the instruction in order to do the practice. And I'm going to just, you know, I don't want to sound dated. We could date ourselves easily. But I don't remember a lot of instruction when it came to, you know, insert this here, turn this way, turn that way, say this, move this way. Because this is it. For men with skills, they learn that sexual prowess comes through their timing and pressure.
But where do you get those skills?
Oh,
From
you got
from
to
one
practice.
instruction? Well, yeah, well, that's your instruction. Your practice. Your many partners that you're practicing with.
Well, if you're a good Jedi, you had some very, we're talking generational stuff here. So a different mindset. Dr. Africa talked about that. With mindset, the mindsets are different and they're continuously changing. They're different, but they work on us, especially us. Uh, so you may have women or may have had women partners throughout your sexual history that were kind enough to educate you.
That's part of instruction too.
But when you say instruction, most people think of a formal class, or if they're old enough to remember when they had to sit through those uh, dysfunctional sexual education classes they would give in junior high or high school, depending on where you live. Which just goes to show you how whacked out the whole idea about sex, the demonization of sex, the broken down functions of what sex is supposed to be about. Okay, so what do you mean from a practical level on instruction?
Well, I'm using the word instruction because you posed the question using the word instruction. So to me, I would never conjure up that thought. So to make it clear to everyone else, no, I'm not handing out pamphlets that say this is how you do it. Instruction is interaction, if you want to change the word,
Okay.
It is your trial and errors over your sexual history from the day you lost your virginity until present moment. All of that is instruction. You use all of that. Hopefully, you will be with a partner, male with your female and female with your male, or however it works out for y'all. I ain't hating on other brothers and sisters who want same-sex partners. When you're dealing with that, you hopefully have somebody who can be open and honest and say, this is what makes me feel good.
Okay, now I'm gonna take it even a step further. So now what we hearing is it's hit or miss, and you get out there, and hopefully you find somebody that's compassionate enough and understanding enough in this wonderful intimate moment that's going to let you know what to do and what not to do. Now we hear people talk about our ancient cultures, and we hear people talking about our current dilemmas. There is no more rites of passage. You know you have pathological things going on in our families and communities.
Right.
You know a majority of the women are being victimized in one way or another, whether it's emotional or physical, or both. You know that within our society, women are over sexualized, and there's a reason behind that. Not some secret conspiracy either. There's a serious reason behind it. And I dare to say half are secret agents of the so-called enemy in that game, playing into it. So when it comes to sexual interaction, is it appropriate to say we have to get beyond our fears of adults having these conversations with our daughters, and sons, but right now we're talking about Venus, with our daughters, mother to daughter, and at times father to daughter, about certain realities and practical methods, as well as, not sticking on the chaste model of things or the abstinence model of things. But if that's the culture you're in, that's the family you're in, you respect the rules and the boundaries of that, and you do what you need to do. but that still does not take away the responsibility for the adults in those environments to still provide the proper guidance and education about certain practical realities when it comes to that. Then we need to be bold and say if we really want to stop certain things, we're going to have to find a way to, as you put it, create an educational process around the sexual interaction.
And you're right, it has to start, like we both said in the beginning. Abstinence is not an option because it doesn't happen. It happens maybe in some remote little corner of the world where some tribe will still follow that. And you know what? I have nothing against that if that's what y'all believe in. But in the real world, abstinence does not work. Telling your child, don't do it until you're married is, in these days and times, insanity to believe
Yeah,
that's
that's how they
what's
get
gonna
the
happen.
mouth sores and the anal sores.
Exactly, because yeah, all right, mommy said not to let you have my vagina, but she sure didn't say nothing about my mouth and nothing else. And you know what? That's, what do you expect? We're sexual creatures. It's natural. It's like you're trying to put a cork in a crack in the Hoover Dam. It does not work. It eventually is going to bust wide open because that's what we want. That's in us. And yeah, we have to have the conversation younger. In other videos we've said, if the curiosity is there and the question is there, then the explanation needs to be there. It's not come back when you're 17 and then mommy will tell you all about it. Because in between 12 and 17, your child's pregnant.
Well, what would be some sexual wellness practices specific for the females that if you just had to give them one or two or three that as a woman you should be practicing whether you're sexually active at the time or not?
Self gratification is important for a woman. When your child is of an age when they're curious about sex, and I think it depends on each individual. Everybody's child is different. My child was 7, and no, I didn't get into, you know, deep conversation at 7, but I certainly answered her question. And I explained to her what her clitoris was when she asked me. I'm not going to explain. If she's 7-year-old mind can come to her mama and ask what it is, then I have to explain in a 7-year-old version of what it is. And as she gets older and her questions get more in depth, then you answer more in depth. But you don't not answer the question because they're going to get the answer somewhere. And most likely it'll be from some stupid classmate who doesn't have a clue. I think it's important to not ignore it. And explaining self gratification to your teenager who is thinking like, you know, I want to have sex, but I'm not sure, and I don't know, you know, what is it going to feel like? What is an orgasm? Can you tell me what that is? Well, explain masturbation to your child. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not dirty. It's not a disease. Explain what it is. Let her know what it feels like to feel good. Let her know what it feels like to have an orgasm. So when she is ready to be with a man, she knows, okay, I know what an orgasm feels like, and when I'm engaging with this man, I'm not getting that. So she's not trapped in some relationship thinking, oh, this is some good sex. Well, you know it's not good sex because you know when you're by yourself, you get better sex than that. So if you're with someone, you are hoping that the engagement is at least equal to or much better. You're not going to be sleeping with somebody when there's no return. There's nothing emotional in it. There's nothing physical in it. What are you getting? What is the engagement about? Just empty what?
Okay. So I'm going to say we have to refer to Dr. Africa's interpretation of masturbation versus self-rape for both male and female. pretty specific, but generally there's a notion of, and we talk about this when we give our lectures and when we talk about the birth and the bliss moments
Right.
because of the frustration from the female side, the angst from the male side, which they're both experiencing, and it takes them something different for each to get to that creative safe space so that for the female the release can happen and for the male the surrender can happen. So that's something that everybody should educate themselves about. Anything else with that?
I want you to answer the question. You brought up Dr. Africa's version of masturbation being self-rape.
The difference between the two. They're two different things. They're not the same.
Right.
At least from the way I heard him talk about it. The way that is commonly practiced, especially by men, is self-rape.
And by commonly practiced, you mean?
My goal is to whack it to death as much as possible. Got to get this anger or deep-seated frustration out. That is what's there. It's from a different culture than ours. It's from a different premise.
Right.
What needs to happen is self-love. And you use that terminology about self-love, then onto self-gratification, which are different things. And there are rituals and different things you can do to get into that. Not pray to some strange gods and chiming bells and incense and all that, okay? What we're talking about are things you do for yourself. One of my teachers would say self-pampering.
Definitely need to self-pamper.
And that can go a long way in helping us alleviate a few things. So that's just the clarification on that. If something violent you're doing to yourself, and that if you really thought about it, take a step back. I like how Dr. Wilson always said, don't attach an emotion by judging yourself about some behavior. Just say it's interesting. I wonder why I go about it that way. I wonder why I did this at that moment. Allow your brain, because we still haven't figured out how it works. We still don't know. But what we do know is that things come to us. Things are shown to us in various methods and ways. When you poise it that way, your brain computer will give you the answer. Because that's how your brain is really designed. It's solving things. So when you attach a blame and emotion and guilt to it, you shut that down and then you go off into some spiral of negativity that continues and continues and continues. So just a little bit on that. Not going to harp too much because that's
I
like
just
a
wanted
4-hour
you
lecture.
to clear it
And
up.
people that want to know more about that, you can catch one of Dr. Wilson's lectures. You can definitely catch one of Dr. Africa's lectures where they go into depth about such topics, truly in education.
Thank you.
All right.